Geister, come from Sentify. Today I want to talk about tracking compliance audits in Jira and how to make these easy and repeatable, along with keeping things simple. And so we'll just jump right into it. So the agenda today is just how to help your team track and gather evidence year over year for compliance. A few of the compliances that we've done this in are ISO's 27001, SOX, SOX 2, ISO's 9000. So a few things to keep in mind when we're talking about tracking compliance. So you're going to want to work with your internal audit teams and or external audit teams if you're using like an external team to help you guide through the audit process to help build this out. We're going to also work with the teams to build a workflow that works for all of the teams. And we'll go and show you a simple one today. We're going to talk about a one-time import to track the audit year over year. And then we're going to talk about gathering evidence and applying it to issues. And then also talk about auditors' access. Within this process, you're going to do some type of an internal audit, and then you're also going to be doing an external audit. And through that internal audit process, we're going to hopefully find things and fix them proactively for the external audit. So few tips. Work with your internal audit team to gather requirements to help build this out and know what data points you need. Every audit compliance that you're in, whether it's ISO, SOX, they all have different requirements. They all have different data points. So that's why it's so important to work with those internal teams and external teams to gather the right info. Utilize internal fields like components, labels, if possible, and help limit the or reduce the amount of custom fields we need to create. Make sure to be inclusive in the process and get with other departments that are part of that audit, and they'll give you ideas how to make it better. I do recommend using software project and or Jira work management to set these up. Both are great, but they both have advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages with work management is the summary. So that's really helps to see where you're at. But when we've built these in the past and I've helped people set these up, it's usually been in a software project Kanban style. Again, a few types of compliance that we've run through there are SOX 2, ISO's 27001, and ISO's 9000. You could use it for any sort. Internal teams or external audit teams. If you're using an internal audit team, you gather data or contract with the external audit team. One of those could be like KPMG, Deloitte, or another team. I really recommend that you work with them to organize the data in an Excel sheet for the import. They usually will have a standard that they use, and you can easily manipulate that to import. So here's an example of a workflow that you can use. So we would start with our opening where we're gathering our documentation, or we just have a to-do list to gather everything. So from there, we can go to our internal audit. If the audit passes, the issue or ticket can go to the internal audit passed, or it would go to fail, and we would need to find some type of remediation or find some more evidence to gather to make it past that. Once it's been remediated, it can go to an internal audit passed, and then it would go to the external audit. When the external auditors are going through your list of issues and the evidence that's applied to them, they would then, define if it's something that has passed or something that has failed. And then after you get done for the year, you could do like a bulk update to reset everything back to documentation, so you can start your next year's audit. One of the things I recommend is that you use the same issue year over year over year, and just labeling that issue with the year that the audit happens. So from there, we're going to talk about the import. So the import sheet is going to be probably the most important part here, because you're going to have all your compliance data there, and what compliance code or compliance you're trying to pass. And so this is kind of an example of an import. So on this side, we're going to have our stories as what we usually keep them in. You might have individual tasks, but those will be like during the audit time. Maybe you could, send somebody an issue. So you might have specific tasks that you want to set up through the process. If you look at the summary, we're using the compliance code, so we can easily find that issue. And also, you're going to see like a full description of like what is all included in that code. An example of other fields that can be used, we could use component. A good example of why you could use component is you could see what significant deficiencies you have through your internal audit process and remediate those. So that's something you could use, or you could have some custom fields that you want to add for to help distinguish different data points within that compliance. When we do the import, we have to make sure to change our headers. So the compliance team you work with, internal, external, will get all the data into a sheet or Excel file. They're probably going to have different headers. And what you're going to want to do is map those headers to things that are specific in Jira. So when you import them, you can map that data for the import. So that's probably the biggest piece here. And some things that you have to have are issue type. You need to have summary, description, and then the fields that you need. Making sure that we have that summary and issue type will need to be added to import those. Next, we're going to talk about evidence gathering and putting the evidence into an issue. So we're going to want to make sure that when we gather the evidence, whether it's external to Jira or internal to Jira by filters, that we're marking the year that that evidence was gathered. So if it's audit year 2023, making sure to add that filter or that Excel file or that Google Doc and have that that year on there, because we're going to, at the end of the year, set these to start over. And then you have every year of compliance tracking on one issue. So we're not creating new issues next year. We're just doing one import. And then every year we're using the same issue to gather evidence. That way everything's harvested in one place. I like, if things are in Jira, to create filters and then add those filters with like audit 2023 and then maybe the compliance code or something to distinguish that filter. Sometimes you might have 100 filters you're building for the compliance, so we want to make sure to give it a name that's relevant. So that's pretty important. The next thing is adding the supplement documentation from Microsoft, Google, Dropbox, etc. Now with the smart links, you can embed the data. And so the really cool thing is like you can show it as its full view and use it inside the issue. So we didn't have that in the past. So I definitely recommend if you can use a smart link to embed that, that's also very helpful. Going from evidence gathering, we're going to talk about auditors access. So in the past, what we've done is we've created Jira groups for our auditors. We send them an invite from the administration team to get them logged in and get them access. When we put them into that group, we then embed that group into the projects for that specific audit. And so they have access of like read and comment. So giving them the right permissions, and then that group is controlled from the admin. So when we need to add a new auditor, we can just add them to that one group and add them to the projects that they need to be a part. So if you work with PwC, PwC is going to work with your audit team to say like this auditor is going to be there. So they just forward that email address for that person to the Jira admin team, and then they can add them to the group. I do recommend that you have a role set up for your auditors, whether you have a read-only role already or you want to create like an external auditor role and an internal auditor role. That way you can split up the permissions, because the internal audit team is going to need more permissions than your external auditor or audit team. And you might even want to have like maybe a third role just for the external audit team that actually is going to perform your audit. So you might have to like find a good naming scheme for that, but then adding them to the audit projects with the right permission. Typically only adding our like the PwC or the company we're working with that's going to do the audit, and just giving them like a read-only access to that project, where like the internal and external audit team that's prepping for this, we might give them ability to be assigned to issues or comment and delete or whatever they feel they need to help make that audit go smooth. So I would definitely make sure that they have the right level of access based on your company and what you do as a team. We don't want to give them too much access. So some key takeaways here. It's a pretty fast presentation because it's a very simple process. And so the key takeaways are, let's make it simple and repeatable. Working with our internal and external audit teams to like make it work for us, gathering the right data points, gathering what other teams in the business need to be a part of that. If we're doing a SOX audit, obviously we need to really include all the finance and all of IT for access management. If we're doing an ISO's 27001, we're going to have to work with a lot of our other teams that have different functions within the business. So keeping them. The next one would be like the evidence gathering, making sure that the teams that are working to gather evidence and being assigned to issues are adding a good label to that evidence and labeling it for the year of audit, so we can keep that going over and over and over. So I'm kind of go back up here for the workflow so you can see it one more time. This doesn't have to be exactly how your workflow goes. It's just what we've typically used in the past or something similar. And so you can make it follow a direct path, or you can make it be indirect and have it go back and forth between the different areas if you want, but it's up to your team. Today, I think we're more or less looking at how we can give you the foundation or the formula, and then you can make it how you want in your instance. So it's really open, but this is what I found to be able to make work and make it repeatable over and over and over. So I hope that helps you guys understand the process. And I kind of put this here because it was funny, because he doesn't like losing his money and he doesn't like audit. So I don't think any of us really love audit time, but it's a pretty funny one. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. So. actually see Mark. Mark is there. Let's see who else is here. Noah. Sajid. Dan Toons. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, be happy to help answer them. Probably something that most people have done in some way. Things I can iterate on while you're here are keep it simple, keep it repeatable. The more simpler it is, the easy the audit teams have using it, and the easier your external auditor that's going to audit you will appreciate you. Last year, we did an audit for ISOs. We did one for SOX, and our PwC external auditors were actually only there for a minimal amount of time because we made it set up so simple for them that they could get through all the issues and see the evidence so easily. They actually gave us kudos for using Jira this way. And they said they've never seen Jira used in this capacity, but it made their job very easy. So they had planned to be there for like 4 or 5 days, and they were actually only there for 2 days for both audits because everything was right where it needed to be. So again, keep it simple, keep it something repeatable. So in your workflow, making sure that you can bulk update those issues and get them back to the beginning for the next internal audit and external audit. So Jessica asks, why do you continue to use the same story year after year versus creating a project specific for to audit type? So good question. First, I might have missed that, but one thing I recommend is like each specific type of audit should have its own project. So ISO's 27001 should have a different project compared to like 9001. But what we can do is we can use the same process for each one. And we do one import for each different type of audit. But then next year, what happens is all those compliance codes are always going to be the same. You're always going to be audited on the same stuff. And so if you can put all of the data in this same issue, you can easily find that based on the code, or easily find that because you're working in the same issue every year. You kind of get used to seeing that data. And so you can go back and look at the previous year's data. So I might have missed that, but yeah, definitely use a different project for each type of compliance you're trying to pass, but making sure that each code that we're trying to get evidence against, that it's in one issue. And so it's repeatable over year, because when you go back in, you can go see, like, I got an ITGC issue that is about access control. I want to know like what the evidence was that year over year. And so I can always go back to that one issue and revisit that and see like how was that different between the different years. So I hope that answers it. Sorry, it's my first time presenting, so I was a little nervous and I missed that. But yeah, I hope that works for you. And if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can email me if you wanted help with your own audit, I'd be happy to share any of this data again with you. This will also be able to be reviewed again afterwards. Recording, I guess they said, will be available, so you can revisit it again. So, and I'm also willing to like help people set theirs up if they needed help. If you want to reach out to, if you're building your own in the future, reach out to me and I can guide you through if it's something that you need to do. So, or work with the team to help build it in Jira. One of the things that I found before was like people are buying these really expensive audit tools, but they use Jira, and so you can save a lot of like business, funding for that by just using the tool that you're already tracking the data in. So kind of makes sense to keep it in Jira and in the same ecosystem. So. All right. Well, thanks everybody who came and listened, and I hope this was informational for all of you. And Oh, competing product names. I I don't know if I could throw them out there. There's so many like that are for tracking compliance. Um, I wouldn't even know where to start because there's so many different ones out there. And then I would say in like the last 5 years with the SaaS boom, I don't even know a lot of them because I've always tried to use Jira. So I usually like if I can find a use case to use Jira, and I will usually just do the process in Jira rather than another system. So, um, but if you want to email me, I could get you, get back to you about some of those. I had a few friends that we helped with their SOX audit and that they used like a third party system. Oh yeah, that would be cool if we could bring people on and have a discussion too. That'd be nice. I'm on cloud, but you can do this in you can do it in data center or server too, which I mean probably not in server because that's end of life, but you could use um any either or data center, excuse me, or cloud. So but typically, if we're doing the building of this, I would use Jira Work Management or Jira software to build this out in. So um, we have done in the past some internal auditing, what we call like user access reviews using JSM. But for the other types of like more external auditing stuff, I would stick with Jira Work Management or Jira software to like build out the process like this. I think they're a little more robust and a little bit more team friendly for everybody to have access. The reason I would maybe shy away from JSM is because of the licensing cost and the difference between like a customer and an agent. So, any other questions or anybody want to come in and like have the discussion or jump in? We could probably do that. Mm. I know there's more questions out there, but someone might be holding on to them. Yeah, so sorry for awkward silence. I would say again, however you make your process, um, make it simple and repeatable, and it just makes everything easier. So, and if you want to know more or you want to talk about it, I will be in the admin lounge, and or you can reach out to me on my email or LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to work with you all. So thanks for coming.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you, Aaron. I don't see any hand raised requests right now. So, Aaron kind of shared how you can touch base with him if you would like. Thanks, everyone.